my name is Wei Qian. I'm from Mandai Wildlife Group. So just to do a short introduction about myself, I am the manager for Volunteer Engagement Unit, who manages volunteer programs at Mandai. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a bit of a sharing about what Mandai does in terms of protecting wildlife and how you can join us and be part of this mission as well. Right. So just a short introduction about our organization's vision and mission. So we want to be a world-leading zoological institution, but with also a focus on inspiring people to value and conserve biodiversity. So this is also relayed through our mission of providing meaningful experiences, not just for our guests, but also for volunteers who are part of us. So in today's sharing, I'm going to share with you a little bit more about the things that we do and hopefully inspire us to join us if wildlife and protecting wildlife and conservation is something that you're really interested in. Okay, so just a short introduction about Mandai Wildlife Group and the parks that we manage. So these are the 4 parks that we currently manage: the Jurong Bird Park, the Night Safari, the River Wonders, and the Singapore Zoo. Of course, there are 2 new parks that's upcoming, with one opening up in the second quarter of next year, the Bird Paradise. Right? So to do a very short introduction about the things that we do, we will be covering a little bit more about how we care for animals in our parks before moving towards how we care for wildlife or how we protect wildlife in the other works that we do. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about caring for our animals first. So for those of you in front of the screen, just have a mental thought about how many animals do you think the 4 parks that we have covers? How many different individual animals? Just something for you to think about before I move on to the next slide. Okay, 3 seconds about there. And all right, so basically for the 4 parks that we have, we cover about 21,000 animals, and that includes over 900 species. So 978 species, 26% of them are threatened in the wild. So which makes it all the more important that we do our part to care for them, and we also relay this message to guests who visit our park as well. So there are many different aspects of care that we focus on and we really play a big emphasis on as well. So I'm going to move on through the different aspects bit by bit as we go through this sharing. Right? So first and foremost, when we have animals in our park, we talk about the space that we create for these animals. So these are basically the animals' home, and it's really important for us to design a natural home for them, right? So I'm going to show you 2 pictures over here that some of you might be familiar with, for those of you who have visited our parks before. Right, so these are the homes for our orangutans. So over here on the picture on the left, you see the home, we call it an orangutan island for our orangutans. And on the right, it's a scene that you might feel familiar when you walk through our park and you look up and you actually get to see orangutans that are climbing on the vines over you. Right, so this is something that we create, and it's something that I think Singapore Zoo is pretty well known for. So Singapore Zoo, it's also a zoo that's an open concept zoo. So we will be talking a little bit more about that. But first and foremost, we talk a little bit more about the space that we create for our animals. So in terms of the exhibits or the homes that the animals stay in, what we do is we have a minimum requirement. So we meet the minimum or even exceed the space that's required for the different animals across zoos and aquariums. There is actually a standard size. Usually we meet or exceed this size for these animals. Of course, what we do is we also provide different elements that encourage the animals to display natural behavior. So if you look at the exhibit over here, if you look at the orangutan island over here, you see that there are a lot of climbing structures over here. So for orangutans, they are known to be arboreal animals. This means that they require a lot of climbing. They are up on the trees most of the time. And in our exhibit, a lot of thought and a lot of care is put in when we design this exhibit, because we want to ensure that there are structures, there are spaces that allow the animals to climb, to maneuver around, and most importantly, there are options for them to play, for them to discover, for them to explore, and for them to hide. Let's say, like all of us, sometimes animals have days that they feel like keeping to themselves. So these are the options that we have to provide when we design a home for these animals. So in our park, you get to see a lot of different types of homes for them. So Orangutan Island, or the exhibits for orangutan, is just one example. So I'm sure as you visit our park, you get to come across different kinds of exhibits which caters to the different needs of the animals, such as in River Wonders, such as in Night Safari as well. Okay, so after we've designed the space that's required for the animals, something that's really important is also food and diet for the animal. So over here, what we want to do is we want to provide them with suitable diet for the different animals. So one thing that you might not be aware of is that the diet in our parks are really formulated by wildlife nutritionists. So we work with our nutritionists to come up with diets that's suitable for these animals and that closely represents or replicate the diet that they would get in the wild. So in this picture, you see two animals over here. The one on top is the Malayan flying fox, and the one at the bottom is the Sunda pangolin. So Malayan flying foxes, they are considered fruit bats. In fact, flying foxes are the largest fruit bats in the world. And what they do is they would fly around, they would look for food using their sense of sight, using their sense of smell as well. So over here, we provide them with a variety of fruits. So in this picture alone, you can see that there are 3 different kinds of fruits that the fruit bat can choose. And for the animal in the bottom, we have the Sunda pangolin. So Sunda pangolin is my personal favorite because it is a native animal. Right? So for this native animal, they feed exclusively on a diet of ants and termites. So for pangolins in our care, it can be rather tricky to just go around digging up for ants and termites. So what we have done is we have formulated a suitable diet for these pangolins while they are in our care. So this diet is made up of a mixture that includes mealworms, that includes ant eggs, silkworm powder, chicken eggs, and also an additional supplement called chitin powder. So this supplement called chitin powder is also something that can be found in ants and termites itself, right? So this is really important because it provides them with the added nutrition that they would also have gotten in the wild if they would have gotten their diet in the wild as well for the wild animals, right? So when we talk about supplements, it's really helpful and it's really important for us to add on and supplement with this nutrition that caters to the respective needs of the different kinds of animals. So in this picture, in the pictures of these supplements, you see that we have many different kinds of supplements here. We have the general supplements that caters to maybe animals who are like reptiles, for example, carnivores, for example. They all require a different kind of added nutrition. So these supplements help to enhance the diet and the nutritional value of their food intake. We also have the geriatric animals, who are the senior animals that might need a lot more supplements or a lot more nutrition. Because of their aging, because of their age, and some of the things that we need to counter. We also have supplements that we provide pregnant or breeding animals. So in this picture here, we are showing you a photo that a supplement that we feed our pregnant primates. You notice that it says mothers, and it might be, for some of you who might be familiar with this is also consumed by humans as well. So this is because for primates, they do have certain nutritional needs that are similar to humans. So that's why some of these supplements are kind of similar. Right? So we talk about living spaces for the animals. We talked about having a suitable diet for the animals. Next up, we're going to talk about something that's a little bit more enriching for their life. Okay? But before that, we also talk a little, so in terms of diet, sometimes we present it in different way. It is also a way for us to enrich their life, for us to challenge them a little bit as well. So that's quite closely related to the diet, to the enrichment that we're going to talk about. Okay, so in terms of enriching animals' life, it is a very important aspect in animal care. Because what we want to do is when we have animals in our care, we also want to make sure that we kind of keep them mentally and physically healthy. We provide them with challenges that would be similar to the challenges that they encounter in the wild as well. This enrichment is basically an opportunity for the animals to express their natural behaviors. So some animals in the wild, they do foraging, they do interact with other species as well. So enrichment in the parks, in our parks, allow them to still have that chance to display or to choose to interact and participate in this kind of behaviors as well. It is also important to know that out of the 900 over species we have, they all have different needs. They all have different behaviors. So the enrichment has to be very carefully thought out, have to be carefully planned so that it suits the needs of the different species or even the different individuals. Because certain individuals may react differently to the enrichment itself. Some of them might be more adventurous, some of them might be more wary, some of them might be able to solve that puzzle in a really, really short amount of time. Some of them might take really long. So these are the different things that our animal care staff have to take into consideration when we design this enrichment. So what exactly is enrichment, or how does it look like? There are basically many different types of enrichment, broadly categorized into 5 types. So the food kind of enrichment, something that also tests or engages their senses. We have the cognitive kind of enrichment, or we have the environmental kind of enrichment, which means that basically we do a bit of changes to their environment so that it encourages them to explore a little bit more. We also have the social enrichment as well. So I'm going to show you some pictures of examples of enrichment. Think a little bit about your visit to our park and see whether you recognize some of them from your visits. Okay, so we have one over here, the second one for our birds. We also have one that is in one of my personal favorite aviary, Fragile Forest. Right, so let's focus a little bit more on the first picture, the one with the orangutan. So this is a very interesting device that you see here, and it's something that, let's say, if you visit our park, our zoo, and you go to the orangutan island, you probably try and spot this. This is what we call a puzzle feeder. So if you look at the enrichment type, sometimes it's not, the device can include different type of enrichment. It can be food-based. It can also include the cognitive, or it can test or challenge the cognitive level of the animal as well. So for orangutans, in the wild, they are known to use tools to kind of dig for food, to kind of generally use tools. So what they do is they will take branches and they will try and dig around, trying to get the food out. So we try to replicate that in our parks as well, in the form of puzzle feeder. So basically what happened is that the puzzle feeder have different openings where our orangutans have to go around the exhibit, forage and find a branch or a twig of some sort so that they can get to the food that is in the puzzle feeder. So once they find where the food is, they will try and put the branch or the stick inside the puzzle feeder and try to maneuver it so that they get the food out. So this food is something that is more of like a treat for them, something they probably don't get in their everyday meal. So it's a bit like chocolates for us, like little treats for us. So it's a bit more motivated. They are a bit more motivated to try and work for that particular treat that they will get. So after a while, they probably get the food out, and during that period of time, it engages them. It is similar experience to how they would have to look for food in the wild as well, because they have to think of way to get to their food as well. Then you can also see some of the other devices that we create for our animals, like the ones for the parrot. So this is something where if you hang it, if you suspend it, and the parrots, when the birds move on it, it swings a little. So it also tests challenge their balance. It gets them to kind of work on that a little bit more as well. And for fragile forests, or basically in a lot of exhibits where we have different kind of species, it's an opportunity for them to interact with the different species. Because an environment in the wild, you don't just have one animal there. You probably have many different kinds of animals in a particular ecosystem, in a particular setting. And this is something that we are working towards to get different species to interact with each other. It is also important to take note of what kind of species can work well together. We definitely wouldn't put probably a zebra with a cheetah. That's not wise to do that. Okay, but we want to look at something that's complementary and something that is also naturally occurring as well, the different kind of animals. And the next photo or the next video or short GIF that we're going to show, it's of a fossa. And you can see that in this really still for his eye check, because Pedro is a senior animal. And what we know with senior animals is that when they age, sometimes they develop certain issues. For Pedro, we want to do eye check because we want to monitor his cataract condition as well. So if you look at the video, if you notice how the video, it requires us to do an ultrasound scanning on his eye. So you have to basically have that gel over the eye, and you have to keep very still so that your eye is open for the device to scan the eyeball. So even for us, it can be rather challenging. I think for some of us, even for myself, when I put on contact lens, it's also a challenge. I have to force myself to open it up. But for Pedro, he does it so willingly. It is also because of the training that we have performed over the months, over the years. It is also because of the trust he has with his animal care team, that he is willing to stay so still for this procedure. So imagine if we are not able to train him up for it, that would have taken a lot more effort for us to do this check for him. Right, so we talk about medical conditioning, and it is often coupled with a reward for them. So you notice that just now in the video, after he has done this procedure, he's rewarded with plenty of fish, and the keepers also provide a lot of praises for him. So that is something we call positive reinforcement, so that he knows that, oh, okay, after I've done this behavior, I get a treat and nothing happens. So, okay, I'll continue to do this procedure. Right? So we talk about medical conditioning, and we also learn a little bit about Pedro. So Pedro is one of our senior animals over here. So in our parks, we do have a lot of animals who are, animals grow from babies to until they are old. So we do have senior animals in our care. And in fact, I'm going to share with you a little bit more about our really special geriatric animal care plan. So this picture here is kind of like a retirement aviary for our animals, for our showbirds at Jurong Bird Park. Okay, so I'm really proud to share that for Mandai, we are probably one of the first parks or first zoos in Asia to have a geriatric animal care plan. So this means that these animals are given a lot more attention, because as animals age, they tend to present or they tend to develop certain health-related issues, age-related health issues actually. So being able to have these kind of plans for these animals allow us to monitor and detect problems earlier, before they even became a big problem for us to solve. Right? So there are very close monitoring in the form of every animal's, basically for this senior animal care plan, every animals, when they reach about 75% of their lifespan, they would be automatically enrolled in this membership, right? This senior animal care membership. So what we do is we have a dedicated vet, a particular vet that would follow up the case for this animal. So they will schedule regular checkup. It could be every other month, it could be every year, depending on the need of this individual animal. And then after that, the animal care team, our keepers, our vets, and sometimes even our nutritionists, they will work together to formulate, let's say if there are intervention needed, if there are treatments needed, if there are different plans that's required to manage this particular animal, it's very tailored to the individual. So that's something that they work very closely with each other for. Okay. So we talk a lot about how we care for animals in our park, the animals that we take care of across the 4 parks that we have. We also put in a lot of effort in protecting wildlife beyond Mandai. So this comes in the form of the different conservation projects that we support. Through Mandai Nature, there are many projects we support locally as well as overseas. So as of April this year, what we have done is we have supported a total of 61 conservation projects. So this is consistently throughout the years. We provided support for these projects. In Singapore itself, there are 15 local projects that we support. So in today's session, I'm going to just talk about maybe one of the projects that we support. Okay, so over here, we have a project that allows us to protect gibbons with coffee. So how does that come about? How does the two meet? All right. So when we talk about coffee planting or plantation in general, we know that it usually requires the clearing of land. So with that, it comes with habitat loss for the animals that are in the forest itself. So what we do is we work with the locals to encourage farmers to grow shade-grown coffee. So this means that the coffee is able to still grow without clearing the forest. So they are able to grow in the shade. And this allows us to protect and conserve the habitats for gibbons and also the other animals in the forest as well. So what we do is we also fund consultants to go over to help the farmers to enhance and to kind of strengthen the roasting process so that the shade-grown coffee beans are at good quality for us to sell. So in fact, at our parks, we are selling the OWA coffee at selected F&B outlets as well. Okay, this OWA coffee is also served in one of our regular experiences called Breakfast in the Wild. So I'm going to show you a video of how this OWA coffee comes about and how exactly does it help the wildlife.
OWA coffee can be grown under the shade of the rainforest. This means that the rainforest doesn't need to be cleared to grow these coffee. These animals' homes are preserved. Local farmers are engaged to help collect, clean, and prepare the beans for export. Serving OWA coffee in our parks help us promote more sustainable practices and invite guests to protect wildlife with us.
So we talk about OWA coffee, how we support the farmers in terms of producing this coffee to be exported out of their country and also to generate revenue for them. By selling it, we are also contributing to the revenue of these farmers as well. All right? So we've talked so much about the things that we do, but in fact, we really can't do it without the support of our volunteers as well. Right? So what we're doing here is also to share with you our vision, our mission, and the things that we do, hoping that if this is something that resonates with you, please join us in our volunteer program. Right? Join our community to advocate and to encourage more people to adopt behaviors that are friendly for the animals, sustainable behaviors, or even generally just know a little bit more about wildlife and the things that we can do to protect them. So over here we have a QR code. We also have an email address that you can reach out to if you want to find out more.
Wow, thank you so much, Wei Qian, for the insightful sharing. And I believe everyone on live right now should have learned so much about Wildlife Group and what they do, right? Right now, we are going into the Q&A segment, and we have received a lot of questions. And I'm going to invite Wei Qian here with me on stage again to answer some of your questions here. And yeah, Wei Qian is here already. Come on, let's go. Okay. All right. So sure, I will pick the questions for you. The first question for this morning is, are animals captured by ACRES passed to your department to ensure they're okay before releasing to the wild?
Yes, actually locally we do have different organizations that work together in terms of the native wildlife, because for our parks we are one of Singapore's official rescued wildlife center. So this means that when the animals are in distress are rescued, sometimes they get sent to us as well, so that our vets do a check on the animals and we will assess whether they are fit enough to be released, or there are different steps depending on the conditions of animals, because sometimes they do come in really bad conditions as well. So we will assess, and then we will work with NParks to look at to identify a suitable release site for them.
I guess, Zoo also has been working closely with all the related agencies as well, right, to take care of the animals before they are releasing back to the wild. Yeah, I think that's great to know. And the next question is, my kids want to be a zoo volunteer. Is that possible? I think this is a really great question because my kid is now 3 years old, and if she really loves, and I think that would be a great platform for her to volunteer at the zoo. So is that possible?
I think that's definitely possible, depending on the age range as well, because over here, in our parks, we welcome people of all age all ages. So usually our journey with the zoo is when you're young, you come to the zoo with your school, you kind of experience the different learning journeys. When you get a bit older, you feel like you are very into wildlife and conservation, you want to do your part, you can volunteer. So our minimum age requirement for volunteers is about 15 years old, right? Because usually we require them to be a bit more independent. Anything earlier before that, in primary school and in secondary school, we do have a school-based volunteer where they can come as a school as part of our Wildlife Buddies program. And then after that, when you get a bit older, you want to come on your own, then you can join us from 15 all the way out. I think our most senior volunteer is about 88 years old this year.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's really nice.
anyone can come.
Okay, so if you're interested, do sign up with them, and I think they have a whole series of events that you can actually volunteer, and I think it will be a really very purposeful kind of activities that you're gonna do at zoo. Now, the next question we have here is actually, I think it's for you yourself. I think the question: what is your favorite wildlife animal and why?
I think every time I do tour, every time I talk about certain animals, I'll say, oh, this is my favorite. When I talk about a second animal, I'm like, oh, I think this is also my favorite. So I do have a lot of favorite animals. There's one particular one, every time I hear them in the zoo, because we do have wild native animals in our park as well, not just animals we care for, but also our neighbors that are sharing the same home. It's the oriental magpie robin. Okay, it's kind of bird, native bird. They are a songbird and they make really, really nice calls. So every time I hear them, I get in a very good mood. I will excitedly tell my friend, hey, my favorite bird.
Hey, but actually, I mean, if your office is at zoo and then you just walk and then you see the birds, actually, it's really nice and see the animals and all. I think that's really a great place to work as well. Yeah. Okay. The next question we have is, what are the experiences that we can get from volunteering with Mandai?
I think it's a different, it's quite a great variety of experiences. We broadly categorize the experience into advocacy as well as animal care. So advocacy means that you help us reach out to more people because we love animals and we also want people to share the same love we have for animals. And it's really limiting for just staff from Mandai to do it ourselves. So getting volunteers really help us to amplify this effort and to encourage more people to join us on board to care for and to really want to conserve these animals.
I think that's really great to know. And I think another point about doing volunteering work is also you can get to meet like-minded people. Yeah, and also, having that network together, that's really quite a wonderful community to be with, actually. The next question I have for you here is actually, are there any local institutions that train animals handling and care for both young and the adults communities?
I think it depends on what you are looking at because I think there are certain causes that train, maybe not so much for wildlife, but more for the domestic or pet animal. For students who are interested in this area, maybe veterinary care would be something that the vet tech diplomas would be something that they might want to consider as well.
Okay, great. I think that there might be quite a few they can actually also look at online, right?
Correct.
Okay. What are the different types of volunteer programs do you have?
Different types of volunteers. So just now I talked about advocacy. So there's also another one which is animal care. So animal care requires certain, it requires some of the programs require a little bit of experience already in terms of animal handling, perhaps with other animal shelters or in other areas. These are the ones that would get you to work more closely with the animal care team to perform certain tasks that contributes toward taking care of the animals as well.
So does that mean that if I have a dream of I aspire to be a zookeeper, but I can't be that? I mean I can join as a volunteer and I can join this advocacy team, right?
Yeah. You
so
can
to
join
learn more,
advocacy or animal care, and then the options are listed on our website also. There are many different variety. Then you can look through the programs and check out what is more suitable for you. And sometimes I think if there are certain things that you have in your mind, you're not too certain which program suits you, feel free to drop us an email because then we will be able to also advise a little bit more.
Very nice. Actually, also just my own personal questions, right? As a volunteer, you also get to see a lot of back of house operations, right? That's actually very exciting.
So we do So I'm from Volunteer Engagement Unit. So what we do is we believe that our volunteers need to know why they volunteer with us. They need to also understand the meaning and the purpose behind it. So volunteering with us, every time there is certain opportunities, we would be very mindful to also communicate how does this add value, how does this contribute. Sometimes when we have engagement events for our volunteers, because for us, we treat our volunteers as one big family as well. So we have engagement events. Sometimes that also contributes to knowing a little bit more about our parks, about why we do what we do as well.
Great. All right. So the next question is that, can I volunteer together with my children? Are there any ad hoc rather than regular volunteering opportunity?
Yes, volunteering with children, I think it really also depends, because like what we mentioned previously in terms of independence, in terms of the task. So I think it depends. Sometimes we have volunteers, because we have different programs. So we have one for the students. We also have one for the working adults. So sometimes we have a parent and child. They are both volunteers, but one is in the adult program, one is in the the student program as well. So that's one way you can volunteer. At times, there could also be ad hoc opportunities as well. And then that's when we would also do like a mass shout out for people who are interested.
So, well, I guess if you're really, really interested to find out more about the voluntary opportunity, you can really sign up with the zoo, and they actually will let you know, what are the opportunities available, right? The next question I have is that, this is interesting. Which animal in the zoo requires the most attention and why?
I think every animal requires an equal amount of attention, because sometimes as animals, they are not verbal. They can't tell you, oh, I feel unwell or I'm sick. They express their unwell or their sickness differently also. So it's very important that every of our animal care team is observant to the detail. Like what I mentioned a little bit earlier in the sharing also, certain slight behavior change, it can also be a cause for concern. So our animal care team is really careful in terms of observing the behavior, observing even sometimes they might just be not as active than previous day. It's also something that's on their radar, so that they will work with their team to go and work together to see, okay, let's monitor, or let's do a check, or let's bring them to the vet. So every animal requires that, because we want to prevent the symptoms from getting worse. So I wouldn't say there's one that requires in particular extra attention. I think it's quite equal, because we have different teams who take care of different animals as well.
I see. Okay, great. Okay, the next question I have for you is actually, what happens to the increasing wild animals roaming in many parts of Singapore right now, and any plans to take care of them?
I think that probably would be a question that we can ask we might find out more maybe from MParks as well. The wild fowls are not from us. Yeah.
Okay. This question. I prefer to interact with the animals and not the people. Any program like this?
Yeah. So just now I shared a bit about the animal care program. So that could be something that you can look at. Sometimes you might also, we do have other volunteers, but this happen on maybe a smaller scale basis, who contribute their different skill set. So people who contribute maybe their writing skills, some people who can contribute a bit more time to caring for the animals. So we do have some of our volunteers who, they're not working, so they are able to commit maybe once a week or even 2 times or 3 times a week to caring for the animal, and that's something that we definitely welcome as well.
Okay. Then can the volunteer choose what kind of animal he or she wish to take care of?
The volunteer can indicate an interest in the team that she wants to volunteer for, maybe, for example, with small mammals, or with herbivores, or with the birds. They can indicate their interest, and we usually also have to work with the animal care team to look at the requirements, the needs as well. Yeah, because sometimes if the team is on a shorter manpower, there's not much opportunity to provide that guidance, then we might halt the recruitment for that particular team.
I see.
So that's something that, to phrase it differently, you definitely won't be given something that you are deathly afraid of. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day, you're also there to help the animals, right? Yeah. So, are there any plans, future plans for our Singapore pandas, especially Lele? I think everybody is really
Very excited.
curious, right? Lele,
Yeah.
yeah, she's so cute.
Yeah, so I think Lolo is getting on. I mean, he is growing up to be a very. He has his own character, so it's really interesting to see. I think the plan is really to for Jia Jia and Kai Kai. They are. I think we recently just signed a lease to extend their stay for, I believe, another 5 years.
Oh, that's
yeah.
nice.
But for Lolo, current plan is really after 2 years, then he will return back to China to be part of the breeding program to support his population lah. Yeah.
So I mean that's the conservation plans, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. This question. Any chance of getting COVID from animal?
I'm probably not the best person to ask in terms of this, but I think the chances are very, very, very low. Yeah.
Right. But having said that, guys, you just have to stay safe.
Yes.
Whether it's an animal or from people, just keep continuing to do all the precaution measures.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that one part that we have all responsibility that we need to take, lah.
Because
Yeah.
in our parks, we do have certain procedures and protocols when we work with the animals, when we handle the animals. Certain animals that are maybe added kind of like a biosecurity as well. So these are the different things that we will implement in order to reduce. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to say how much chances and whatnot. It's probably very low, but in any case, it's just like a triple or quadruple safety measure.
Yeah, so regardless of the situation, guys, please stay safe. And the next question, wow, share with us, how do you work with them? The emotion care such as moody, pain, sick, angry.
It's a lot like how we handle children as well. Yeah, so we just have to be patient. We just have to also understand that the animals, they all have their different personality. So sometimes when they express that, we just have to be patient with them. That's why it's really a tough job to care for the animals as well.
Actually, can I also share, like, for example, if it's like children, right? I mean, children do have like a routine of sort. I mean, if you notice there's something different to the routine, that could actually contribute or attribute to their change of behaviors and also their mood, right? That could potentially be one, right? Okay. Wow. The next questions we have, actually, in fact, we have the last two questions, I think. Do send them in if you have some more questions for us. Do their behaviors or personality change when they age?
I think it's possible because I don't really work directly with the animals enough to observe that. But I believe it depends on really, it's probably possible that their behaviors might change a bit because if you look at health-wise or age-wise, for us even, when we get older, we're probably a bit less willing to go out and party, and then we get a bit more chill. Yeah, so it's the same.
Probably the same, right? I mean, as we evolve to the next life stages, we all have different priorities, and we probably have different kind of
needs as well.
Yes, I agree. Okay. The next question I have actually last two before I'm going to close off the Q&A. Any plans for more animals exchange with other countries in the near future for locals visits?
I think all along for us, as we are part of this international World Association of Zoos and Aquarium, and a lot of other associations as well. So what we do, or what zoos do, is to do animal exchanges. So on and off, we do have animal exchange. It could be new animals. It could even be for existing animals, just to make sure that the genetic variation is the same. And when we breed these animals, it is to ensure the genetic diversity as well. So animal exchanges takes place probably all the time, even during COVID season when we have the COVID period when we welcome 2 of our new giraffe from India. So they have to take a ship over. Yeah, so it even takes place during COVID. So it probably doesn't stop.
Do we have to go for training of how to take care of an animal before we actually take care of them?
Yes, definitely you have to. I think in terms of volunteer-wise, it's more of on-job training where you shadow the animal care staff, they share a bit with you, and you probably perform the task that is a little bit like maybe level 1 first before you continue on as you gain experience.
Okay. All right, I think that's all of the questions today. Thank you, Wei Qian, for sharing with us this morning. I think that was really great, and we got to know the zoo and how the volunteer program works